That's really
There we go.
exciting. We are live on Facebook. All
All right.
right. So, I'm assuming we're live on Facebook because it says that we're live on Facebook, but I'm not checking my browser because I'm afraid to mess everything up.
Don't touch
I'll go.
anything.
So, tonight, oh yeah, it does show that we're live. Look at that. All right. So tonight we are featuring Duke Floki. I'm not going to try to say your full name.
The middle name is it means white beard, and it's wheat, like wheat.
Oh,
Hvítskeggr. Yeah, that's it.
wait, hold on. How did you say wheat
Like
skegger?
Hvítskeggr. Yeah,
Skegger. Like a
yeah,
kegger. Like a
like a
beer kegger.
kegger. Yes,
Wheat skegger. All right, I got
Hvítskeggr.
that.
Yeah.
What about the
Mhm.
last one? Lambasson? Is that just
That's it. You got it.
I'm a pro. All right,
You
Bronos,
got it.
what's your official like full SCA name, Duke Bronos?
Oh man, Duke Branos Iron Guard, like
Oh,
Iron Guard.
okay.
So it's Iron Gardale.
Arengardale.
Yep.
Yes. Mine's really hard.
Yes, I can never pronounce that one.
I know. I know. It gives people a really hard time. But I never like to do things the easy way, so here we are. Okay, so I have a bag of questions, and just for people that are watching, Duke Floki is going to be tortured tonight. He is a willing victim. Duke Branos is in on it, as are a couple other people that will be showing up sporadically. But, Duke Branos, that does not mean that you cannot answer these questions that I'm about to ask.
Oh, that's why I was supposed to show up later.
No, no, no. These questions are going on all night.
Last shoot.
Yeah, it doesn't
I
matter
thought
when.
this was just roast one person.
Oh, no, 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 no. Like I said, nothing easy. Nothing easy in my world.
Well, I'm getting pretty used to them because you
I
kind of
know.
you throw me questions on messaging all the time too. So
That's true. I am really mean to you. Do you hear that?
yeah.
Is your dog having bad dreams?
Yes, my dog is having
Yeah.
bad dreams. It is precious. Oh my gosh, I love them so much. I wanted to let them run around while we were doing this, but they would try to like climb on me, and I figured that would not be what people wanted to see. And when I had this set up waiting for you guys, it's showing like this screen and what's behind me. And so one of my dogs has never seen that before. So she kept looking at the screen and wondering why there was another dog
Oh,
in front of her. So then she jumped on top of the desk and attempted to pounce at my monitor because she thought there was
yeah.
another dog here.
That's a
So
bad idea.
bad idea. So I figured, oh no, wait, look, that's us. Okay, sorry, I had to mute that so I can see if people comment. Okay, all right, question time. You
Okay.
ready?
Hold on. Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, oh.
I'm kidding. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm
Do you
ready.
want
Let's
to?
go.
Okay, I was gonna. You
No,
want to
let's
take a
go.
sip of your drink
Yeah.
first? Okay. This is a really good question. I have prepared a whole bag.
All right.
All
Wow.
right. Yes, I know. Yeah. So both of you, I do expect an honest answer.
Okay.
All right, Duke Floki, you may answer first, since you are the guest of honor tonight. You might never come back, so we might as well.
Let's get it in right
Give him
now.
all the hard questions.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, let's do that.
I feel like a lot of them are kind of like, I don't know, they're hard because I'm indecisive, and you'll understand why here in a minute. Okay. So, would you rather go 30 days without your phone or your entire life without dessert?
Well, I could go my entire life without dessert.
Really?
I'm not a dessert guy.
But
No.
not without your phone?
Well, I mean, no, probably, yeah. Probably not without my phone.
Wow.
If you're
I
giving me
mean,
the choice, I'm going
yeah.
without dessert. Yeah.
Okay, I can't judge you. I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to ask a question.
You're judging him, I can tell.
Like she's
I'm,
judging me all kinds of ways. I can
yes,
tell
I
too.
am. I
Yeah.
am. All right, Duke Branos, what's your answer?
Oh, I can do without my phone.
Oh, okay. Wait, you can or you cannot?
Oh, I can totally do 30 days. Is that all?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's easy.
Okay, so you'd rather have dessert than your phone.
Yeah, not that I'm a big dessert person, but a whole life is a long freaking time.
Hopefully. I mean, hopefully it's a long
Well, maybe
time.
not as long anymore, but it's
It's not as long as it used to be. It's yeah.
Exactly.
We can only hope it's as long as possible. Okay, so you guys are in both like separate camps about this. That's
That's it. It's a fight.
Yep.
yeah, yeah,
It's like
duking it
it's going to
out.
be like CNN. It's going to be battling talking heads.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, I'm kind of in both camps. That's like the what what is that? What am I being?
Indecisive.
Yes, yes. I'm very indecisive. I'm trying to just be like politically neutral,
Nonpartisan.
Yeah.
nonpartisan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's still a choice. That's still making a choice, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but you can't judge me as much for it. All right, I
We're
have
still
another
judging.
question. Yes, good, good. I wouldn't want you to let me off the hook that easily. Okay, and for people that are watching, by all means, ask random weird questions because it's about torturing Duke Floki and getting to know him tonight. Yay! Okay, this one's tricky. If you could breed two animals together, I know it's weird, to defy the laws of nature, what new animal would you create?
Well, hornets and spiders, right? Because we want flying spiders.
Don't do
No,
that.
we do
Yeah.
not want flying spiders.
That's coming
No.
in June, by the way, June 2020. We have the giant hornets,
Oh, you're
It's
killing
flying
me.
spiders next. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You know those are going to be in Australia first, right?
They will start in Australia.
All
If they
right.
aren't there already,
Yeah, I was going to say they're probably there. They just don't talk about it.
it's probably because they also swim in the ocean and they just haven't found them all yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
The worst
horrible.
part is I watched a film on that. They have spiders that literally send out their web, and they're small enough that the wind will catch them
Yeah. They'll fly.
and fly them
Yeah.
through the air.
Yeah. They'll glide.
Yep.
Well, speaking about like on that topic, I'm not actually like, going in a different direction. I'm staying on topic. So, there's a point to this story. My sister, I do have a sister. She's wonderful. She's actually the reason I have this bag because Amazon will wrap your presents in a bag before they
Oh,
send.
nice.
Yeah. So, she lives in Chicago and she moved into this apartment and she took the top floor. So it was like the penthouse level. And none of us really understood why it was available. And
Uh-oh.
then, after maybe a few months, all of a sudden there were spiders all over every single window of her apartment because the spiders would fly in through the air on these webs and they would hit the top of the building and climb up. And so it's like this disgusting penthouse that is from a horror movie because it has spiders everywhere. You can't even enjoy like your balcony.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. Okay, so you're gonna do hornets and spiders. Is that what you're doing?
That's what I'm going to do. Or, well, any flying insect. Take your pick.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Next, Duke Branos. What would you combine?
Come on, everybody wants to see a striped whale.
Wait, a striped whale?
Yeah, like a zebra whale.
Okay, so it would have the coloring of a zebra, but it would still swim through the water.
Yeah, I mean that would be cool.
Could it have like the little fur on the tail on his back fin, like the zebra little tuft of fur?
I'm not sure. That's
Come
kind of weird.
on.
That's getting a little too far fetched.
Okay, like a striped whale is not too far fetched. Yeah, yeah, okay, fine. I'll let you draw the line. I'm gonna remember this conversation. Okay,
Oh,
yeah. All right, so we're moving on. I hope I don't run out of questions and people get bored. You guys are gonna have to get creative.
well, wait a second. I have a question.
Okay.
So when did you win your crowns?
I won my first crown in 2007. Took about a 10-year break, actually, and then did it in 2016 and then again in 2018. So,
Nice.
yeah. Hmm.
So you did it back then. What made you do it multiple times right there in the back end?
I've got a great consort.
Ah, there you go. Bonus.
Yeah, she's
There's
a
where it's
good
all
friend
about.
of. Yeah, she's a great consort. Gwen is she's just a great organizer. She's so on top of stuff. I mean, when you got a queen who's ready, she comes with notes. She has meetings. Like when we'd sit down to do look at bids for events, she'd have all the bids. We'd sit at a table.
Yeah.
She'd have them all in hard copy. She'd spread them out. She had post-it notes on them. And I
Sounds-
mean,
Sounds
that's
just
just
like
the
my wife. I get
yeah,
you.
just the tip of the iceberg. Gwen and I aren't married. She was married to
Oh,
Master Connor, our
nice.
herald, but we are a great working team, and so we're like,
That's cool.
let's just do it. I mean, we're a good team. We work well together. We're on the same wavelength. We even have
Yep.
a little kind of telepathy thing going on. We can do that thing where you're in court and you're thinking an idea and you both look at each other and you don't have to say anything and you know what you're both
Nice.
thinking and you just go and do it. So
My
yeah, when
mo-
you've got a good consort, you just go with it.
my
That's sweet,
mind
man.
went to
Yeah.
criminal court, not royal SCA court. There.
Well, that's later.
I was like, wow, all
Yeah,
right, you
that's
have
later on.
an accomplice. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, Duke Branos, why don't you tell us about your crown?
Oh man, that's a way back. So I was just trying to remember that the other day. I think my last crown I won was 23 or 24 years ago or something. So I won in like now I'm trying to remember. So I think I won in 94, and then exactly 10 years later, I fought again and won like in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
So my wife
Yeah.
finally, my wife
She
always wanted to be a duchess. I like being an earl, right? So
Yeah.
there's nothing better, right? And great title. I do 12th century stuff, but she just wasn't much for the countess thing. And finally it was like, you know what? It's time to give her what she wanted for all that time. And she was going through a lot of stuff at the time. And then she just absolutely rocked out that second reign with everything she was still going through. I was just, I couldn't even hardly keep up with her.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it was very cool.
Yeah, our second reign, my third reign, Gwen's second reign. I reigned my first reign with my ex-wife, and so when we did Gwen's second reign, I just like, this is your show.
Mm-hmm.
Just do what you want.
That is
I'm along.
exactly what
I'm
I did
along
the
for the
second time.
ride. Yeah, I'm along for the ride. I got nothing. I've got no skin in this game now. So it's whatever you want to do. Let it go ahead and do it. And she had a blast. I had fun too. Our last reign, we did it last summer, and it was great. We had a great time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Now it makes me feel like my questions don't have a place here. So.
Oh, they're great. Keep throwing them in. People are going to get bored of this conversation.
They will. They will. They really will get bored of this.
All right. Well, I have another question that actually applies to like SCA and fighting, but we're gonna ask just a random question first.
All right.
Okay. If you had a warning label, what would yours say?
Oh God. Ask Sean when he gets on here. Sean knows it should be on my warning label. I've known Sean for almost 30 years, and so he'll know better. I have no idea.
Nothing.
No idea.
You have no. See, that's a good warning label.
I would say
have
don't.
no idea.
How about don't feed after midnight? That's a good one for me.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I'd say that's a
Yeah.
good one for me. I've got to read that warning label more often.
Usually that one's like, don't feed drinks after midnight, though.
Well, that too. Yeah. Yeah.
Have another person joining us, ready to be tortured along with us. While he's getting set up, all right, Duke Branos, what is your warning label that would be attached to you?
Oh, probably beware of intensity.
Well, that's a good one. Yay!
Hey!
Hi, how
Mr.
are
Seto.
How's everyone doing?
Your
Yay.
Excellency.
Thank you, Grace. Your Grace.
So we are going through a lot of questions, but for people that are watching, as new people are joining, would you mind telling us a little bit about you, just so they're familiar with you?
With myself, or?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
we're putting you
yeah.
on the spot.
Oh wow! Already? Okay. One
Yeah,
sec.
Yeah, already.
it's like the last to the party, first on the spot kind of thing.
Excellent. That's okay. So
Hey, you got to remember to tell him the code word that if somebody says something, he has to drink.
Oh yes.
What?
Let's do it. What is the word?
Oh, it should be your grace.
Oh no.
No.
I agree.
A lot of drinking.
That's
I
why I'm gonna
agree.
go get more beer. That sounds good. I'm down. I'm down. So as far as SCA wise, I've been in the society for 11 years now. I'm in the Illinois area, so that's Midlands, Mid-Rome. I just started first with my best friend. I was in Germany at Ramstein Air Force Base. He's like, I'm doing this cool stick fighting thing. You should come do it. I'm like, that's great. I'll check that out when I get back to the States. Not knowing I could probably do it in racquetball. I had no idea. And been loving it ever since. It's just been a good time.
So, do you speak German?
Was ist das? No, not a whole lot. No, I only remember like like a few things. Like das is was ist das mean like what is this, and asking for the bathroom. But that's pretty much it.
You have to be able to ask for a beer too. You know that.
Yeah, but most of the time you just like hold your hand up and be like,
there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have one question that's on the table right now. We have two answers, but now we need a third. So, since you have just joined us, what would your warning label say? If you had a warning label attached to you, what would it say?
I'm gonna cheat and ask what did their graces say beforehand,
Well,
so I can get a
first
feeling.
of all, you said the word, and nobody.
Oh no!
You're killing me. Who brought that idea?
Wasn't me.
Well, we had a warning to intense label. And then actually Duke Sean is joining us here in Uno Momento. So we're about to hear what Duke Sean is going to slap onto Duke Floki as his warning label.
Ah.
I passed the buck. I said,
that's smart.
I said, ask Sean. He'll know what my warning label is.
Well, that's
smart. That was a cheap way out.
There's
Hello,
Duke Sean as it is.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Hey, buddy.
Hey, good to see you.
So Duke Sean, we just have done this to everybody so far as they have popped up. Would you give us a quick, yeah, I know. Would you give us a quick rundown of who you are for people that might not know, which I know is impossible because I know everybody probably knows who you are.
Well, we've been doing a lot of this recently, and I get around a little bit. So I in the SCA, I'm known as Duke Sir Sean Kirkpatrick Tarragon. I live in the Kingdom of Artemisia, Mundane the Salt Lake City area, and I've been here with His Grace Floki for we've been at this for at least 25 years now, going to the same practice and honing skills on each other for a long time. So
you know what I was thinking about, Sean, just the other day? I was thinking about two dumb squires and a dumbass knight fresh out of the Navy at Sugar House Park doing fighter practice, and we decided that the best thing for practice would be two-on-one drills.
Right. Or,
yeah,
and
we would.
Nobody else really wanted to do it, so
nobody else wanted to do it. Sean and me and His Excellency Sir Gregory of Beck would go behind the bathrooms at the park when the sun started getting too dark to see, and we would do two-on-one. Sean and Greg would fight me, and then Greg and I'd fight Sean, then Sean and I'd fight Greg. I mean, we beat each other black and blue. Yeah. And I was just thinking about that the other day. I thought, man, that's good practice. We should do that again.
We should do that more.
Yeah.
Actually, the thing I was thinking about coming into the meeting tonight was the very first practice that I went to after I got out of the Navy. And I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember.
The people in attendance at that first practice that I went to. So this is before Greg got back. This is before Trigby got back. The very first practice that I went to was me and you and Patrick.
Okay, yeah. Well, they've been going like that for a while. Now, everybody who's watching needs to know we're talking. This is 1994. 94. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Did you say that was your first?
No, that was the first practice after I got out of the Navy.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So, in the 6 years that I'd been, overseas or whatever, practice was not quite what it was. And I got home and it was literally me and Floki and one other guy.
Yeah. So cool.
That's what practice had been for a while. And, and then shortly thereafter, Sir Gregory came in when he was still squired. Sir Trigby got out of the Marine Corps right about that time, and that was before he got knighted as well. So, there was, 4 or 5 of us, but, and now, for the last, at least the last 15, 20 years, the practice we have here is easily the strongest in the kingdom. And, And I'm always saying that our practice is one of the best practices in the world. It's the place that you want to go to. It's Branos. It's like that roaring waste practice. It's like the Nutley practice. And, you know, it's one of those places you wanna go to get some good training.
I'm coming to crash your practice.
That, by all means.
Yay! When the quarantine is over, you won't be able to get rid of me. I'm gonna visit all of you.
There you go.
Okay, so Duke Sean, there was a deferment of an answer, so it's been deferred to you to answer.
Okay.
Okay, so Duke Floki was asked a very important question. However, he did not give me an answer.
Okay.
That broke my heart. So it's all on you now.
Okay.
So the question was, if you had a warning label, what would your warning label say? And he said that, you know, you've known him long enough that you would probably be the best source for what his label would say.
So, what would Floki's warning symbol be? I think it would have to be warning. Cynicism is my strong point.
Oh, cynicism. That's optimistic. Thank you. When I get called a cynic, that's an optimistic viewpoint. But thank you. Yeah.
You're always so kind. All right, so I'm sure we'll have questions about fighting and all of that good stuff, but I have another important question for each of you. Duke Floki, if you'll answer this first, and then if answers will come in the order of which you have each entered the meeting tonight. Okay, so we will be very orderly. Somebody has to be responsible while we're drinking. So.
That's not me.
Yeah, you've got this much former royalty on one Zoom year. Somebody else is going to have to take charge.
Definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
We've all been in charge plenty enough.
Plenty. Yeah.
All right, so here's the question. How much would someone have to pay for your little toe?
I think Branos was in first, right?
No.
Floki.
Oh, I know. I gotta go. Yeah, I gotta go
Floki
first.
is in, yeah.
Oh man, how much would I have to pay for my little toe? How about can I pick like left or right?
No. Wait, what? Are you right-handed or left-handed?
Well, I'm right-handed, but my right little toe is a mess.
Oh.
So it could go cheaper than my left. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
it's not
okay.
any good. I mean, now if we're like negotiating, I am definitely going to sell it to you that my right little toe is the best, and that's the one you want.
Okay.
That's the one
But
that's gotta
okay,
go.
for me to agree to this, I need to hear your pitch, your sales pitch on why your right toe is best.
Why is my right toe best?
Yeah.
It's the prettiest. I mean, just look at it. It's the prettiest of all the toes.
So
It's the prettiest of the toe.
how much would you charge for somebody to like black market your toe?
My little toe. For a little toe, let's go. I would go. How's it getting removed? That's the next question. How are you taking the toe? That's what I want to know.
Oh, this is getting very
Like
complicated.
all in one piece, or this is you're negotiating with me. So
I know. I should have known
is
better.
it all one piece? You want to take it off at one piece, or has it got to go in pieces? Or
You know, I'm gonna say, let's pretend.
I've got a
that-
vivid imagination here, so
Good. We're gonna roll with this. So
Okay.
this is the situation. Okay, your
Okay.
little toe is obviously a champion little toe.
Right, it is.
Right?
of course it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are entering into a world of artificial intelligence, and the SCA has decided that they are going to create a new kingdom, and this kingdom is strictly artificial intelligence. So all of these robots and like bio men and women are being created, and they need your little toe. So what would you charge the SCA to take your
Oh.
toe off as like a toe transplant?
Well, see, now that's a different question because I know the SCA is they're broke. They have nothing.
You're
They got
price
nothing.
gouging. You can't price gouge.
Well, if you need my little toe, then I get to set the price, right?
True.
I get to set the term for this. True.
Fair.
But you know, you got to be. But little toes being what they are, they're not like vital. I'd say 500,000. Start there.
500,000?
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you have just set like the precedent for it, and this is not going to be good going forward.
There's your starting bid, guys. I start at 5,000, so.
Oh my goodness. Okay,
Yeah.
DeGranos, then what would you charge?
I've just devalued the little toe market right now.
Well, the hard part here is my pinkies and toes and bones get sold all the time. It's kind of like the pieces of the cross.
Thousands of them, enough to force Jerusalem.
It's like, oh, look, I got a relic.
And that's true. When that one twig stabbed you in the forest that one time, they made a reliquary out of it.
I got a giant reliquary in camp, and so I'm not quite sure. I'm guessing it's going for about $1 or $2 somewhere.
Like $1 million a buck? Like
no, like $1 or $2 for whatever chicken bow they're calling my toe.
Wow, that's a good price. So now I have to find your toe if I want a good deal. All right, next victim. What would you charge?
Well, I mean, some things you just can't put money on. And I think maybe more of an arrangement or a barter would work. So perhaps erect a statue of me and I would give them my toe, but the statue needs to be at least like 10 feet tall, maybe bronze.
Not gold, just bronze?
No. Because then people steal it. You got to make it something that's not super valuable. So you got to think. But either that, I just go for 500,000, like you say.
Wait, so you're gonna say 500,000 plus a statue?
Oh, damn.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at him. He's a count, and he's already pushing.
Exactly. You gotta. I mean, you gotta try the Dukes are putting this level. You gotta put it higher.
These damn uppity counts.
All right, then, Duke Sean.
I think Floki will appreciate my answer. Him being a movie buff as I am, so I am most likely going to lose my pinky toe in a bet, just like at the end of 4 Rooms.
Get the lighter out. Yeah.
Get the lighter out.
Get the lighter
and
out.
It's going to be Tim Roth. Tim Roth is good. We're gonna have all the build up as to whether or not the lighter goes off, and Tim Roth is immediately going to whack it off without hesitation at all.
True.
So I'm probably going to lose mine in a bet just like that.
Yeah, I agree.
I have actually
You should
never
film
seen
that.
movie. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Film it.
So it's 4 Rooms?
4 Rooms. It's a movie that was directed by 4 different people, like Robert Rodriguez. Quentin Tarantino did the last story of it, but it's this hotel room, or it's this hotel, and it's these stories that happen. Who was it? Robert Rodriguez did one. Who's the other one, Tom?
I can't remember now. I don't think it was Guillermo del Toro. I don't remember the other one. But I'll tell you what, somebody's going to have to post a comment, because the hacking the finger off with the lighter is from a Steve McQueen movie.
Right.
It's from a Steve McQueen movie. And I don't remember the Steve McQueen movie, but in the movie, it's Steve McQueen's going to lose his finger if he can't light his cigarette lighter with one click.
Now,
and of course, Steve McQueen,
right,
he lights that with one click. That's Steve McQueen.
Is it the same Steve McQueen movie that had the 73 Challenger?
Oh, Eleanor.
No, not Eleanor. It was the same one that they used in Death Proof.
Oh no, I don't think so.
I don't know if it was the same movie.
I don't think so. I don't think it was.
Yeah, it was definitely a Steve McQueen movie. Yeah.
We just dated ourselves so badly.
Yeah.
Everybody under the age of 35 just got off this live stream. They're like, I don't know what you guys are talking about now. These old guys.
Somewhere between Steve McQueen and Quentin Tarantino. So
exactly.
we got about a 40-year stretch there.
Yeah, exactly.
We could have dated ourselves in.
Yeah.
All right, so you're gonna lose yours in a bet.
Yeah, lose mine in a bet.
I'm coming out ahead, guys. I'm just saying.
I think you are.
I'm coming out ahead.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't say exact. I mean, I know we said it would come off in like one piece.
Sure.
But we didn't talk about like painkillers, anesthesia.
I'm assuming that it's a hammer and a chisel, and my pinky toe comes off. That's what I'm assuming.
Ow.
Yeah.
Would...
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
That's some grief payment there. But I told you I've got a vivid imagination. So you know.
Of course, that whole question reminds me too of what happened to Ronnie Lott when he got his finger. Ronnie Lott was a safety for the San Francisco 49ers in the 90s. Got his pinky broken, shattered, whatever, and and the doctor said, well, we can fix it, but you'll be out for 6 weeks, or we can cut it off and cauterize it, and you could be playing again in 2 weeks.
Thank you, man. You got another one?
And, yep. And
Yeah.
so he's like, and for a guy like Ronnie Lott, I was like, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be out for an extra month, so just cut it off.
No,
I don't
take
need
it
that
off.
one.
Yeah. We actually have a knight in our kingdom who made that choice. Richard made that choice.
Yeah.
We have a knight in our kingdom, Sir Richard of Ansley, working up in the mines in Wyoming. He got dragged down a mine shaft by his leg.
Woo.
And it was bad.
It was mangled.
It was gone. But he had the artery intact and he still had blood supply to his foot. And they kind of said to him, we can try to reconstruct it or we can take it. And he was like, yeah. They were like, they said, take it. Yeah. So now when you fight Richard of Ansley, and this is not a joke, I'm totally serious. If you leg Richard of Ansley, first of all, you realize he's got no leg about 3 inches under his knee. And if he goes down on his knees and he takes off his prosthetic, you're in big trouble. Because that means, he's like, I can't move so on my knees with the prosthetic. And he would say, can I take it off? And we're like, sure. So he'd reach down, pull his leg, toss it off on the side. And then he's got crazy mobility on his knees and he'd beat the crap out of you. And he did a crown tournament. And the first crown tournament that Sean won, he was in it. He fought Sir Gregory and Sir Gregory legged him and he dropped to his knees. And he called a hold and he reached back and popped his leg off and chucked it out of the ring. And we were like, oh, Greg, you're in trouble. You're in so much trouble. You could even see Greg go, oh, I'm in trouble. Yeah.
What is everybody's preferred weapon form?
Do I answer first?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, let's go for it.
Well, I've always preferred sword and shield. I've fought with over the last, I've been doing this now officially this year. It's been 30 years.
Nice.
I've fought with heaters. I fought with the heater for about 13 years. I fought with the kite for about 11. Now I'm using a really big Viking center held round. I've got a big interest in the authentic Viking round shields. They're huge.
They are huge, like 30 inches, right?
Oh, bigger.
Woo.
Bigger.
How big is your shield right now?
Bigger. Yeah, my shield right now, mine's based off an extant find. So it's all from Germany. So it's 85.5 centimeters. That's about 34 inches. It's the biggest shield I have ever used. This is the one I used in Crown this last time. My my apprentice has a wood shop, and we were cutting out shield blanks, and I said, should we just go ahead and do it? Let's just do it. He goes, do it. Let's see how big's too big. Let's see how big it is, and it's crazy. They're huge. But I've also done a lot of fights with the 133 bucklers. I had a squire who was very good with 133 bucklers. We did a lot of work with those. I've fought with when I transitioned from a kite shield to these giant Viking round shields, I went with a 26-inch conical round shield, fought with that for about a year and a half. So I fought with a lot of different kinds of shields. I just like the balance you get between the sword and the shield. You get this great balance in defense. You get a great balance in controlling measure and range. Contextually, so what I mean by that is the circumstance of the fight. If I'm fighting somebody with a pole arm, if I'm fighting somebody Florentine, if I'm fighting somebody else with a big shield or a small shield, it really, you can find a way to make it work in almost any kind of context, in any kind of fighting situation, that sword and shield. And so that's definitely been my favorite over the years. I just love playing with all different kinds. So that's my answer.
All right. Duke Branos.
Oh, used to be when I first started, before I got knighted, I was pretty much just all mace and shield, and then sword and shield. You have to do it all, but I'm a big believer in, as long as you understand range and measure and tempo and can control your opponent, it really doesn't matter much with a weapon you have in your hands. But obviously sword and shield is very consistent. And I may not win all the time, but the idea is to get that consistency to a place where it seems like you win all the time. And then spear, of course, in melee for years and years. Not so much anymore with shoulder, but hopefully I get back to it. But had fun in melee last year at Pennsic with a shield. I did crazy stuff I shouldn't have done. It is what it is. We don't talk about that anymore.
What happens at Pennsic stays at Pennsic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want my wife to know.
It's your secret is safe here, and with the rest of the internet. So.
Oh.
Zing.
All right, our next answer.
I would have to say I really like Two Sword or Florentine, but that was mainly when I first started. I wanted to do more with Samurai Persona, and I didn't see a whole lot of shield and sword in that use. So I was like, I used Great Sword at first, and Great Sword against a lot of good sword and shield men was very, very difficult. So I threw away the Great Sword, went to Two Sword, and I liked that a whole lot until I actually had a chance to fight with this Grace Bronos a little bit more. And he was using more of his A-frame. And I was like, I wonder if I can steal that A-frame and use it with a two-sword type style. And it worked decently well because I just had more, and it became more like boxing, where I'm throwing shots this way here. But then also meeting his Grace, Duke Sean. Went more to
Oh, that's right.
I was like,
I was like, wait, what? Yeah, okay, that's the code.
I said it once. Oh, yeah.
Rules.
So
somebody has to tell Sean the rules.
Oh yeah,
Go for it.
Sean. Yeah, that's the rule. If that word, if that is spoken, your G word, then you have to drink.
Oh.
What are you drinking actually before we?
It's like,
well, I'm drinking
like
a double IPA.
Yeah,
I'm drinking a double IPA, one of the locals, but it's in these hot little Artemisian pint
There you go.
They're nice, very nice. But when I met Duke Sean, we did a lot of buckler sword fighting as well, and we were teaching not to just gunsling. So
yeah, because my shield was broke.
Yes, but it worked well. I thought it was great.
So all of a sudden, a weapon is a weapon is a weapon.
That's it.
And you had to throw your shots, things like that's good. You're right-handed predominantly, so now do single sword left hand or buckler right hand, and that was hard. So two sword.
Yeah, we kind of tore our setup up there, and then we put him on a diet.
Yeah, it was horrible. Worst diet ever.
And curiously enough, he actually went home and did it, and weird. He actually got better.
Took your advice.
He said you're not going to win a whole lot, but instead of using two sword, use left-handed for 8 months. I think he said. He's like, you're not going to win a lot. I was like, no, I'm not. But it was good.
Yeah,
it's good.
Okay, all right, Duke Sean. What is your preferred weapon form?
So my preferred is definitely sword and shield. I use a heater that is actually based on the Black Prince effigy. It's even though Black Prince is about 5 inches shorter than I am, it's the shield that I'm using is the same dimensions. It's about 22 by 30. And I for the longest time I fought with the same shield that Floki did. We all kind of came from the same school, and so there was the 24, 23 or 24 by 36.
Yeah, 30 by 36. Yeah.
And it was pretty standard for us, and it's been really interesting over the last 20 years to watch how, in the beginning there were so much of us that kind of came from Brian's line that all pretty much had the same thing, and then I fought with the square for a while, and then ended up going to this smaller heater. Floki went from the heater to the kite to the round. Timmer went from a heater to an oval to the Madu, and I think Lachlan is using a rectangle scutum now, and it's just really interesting how, even though we all have a core influence, those shield types and those fighting styles have taken a very natural transition, and so even though a lot of the style is similar, there's so many different systems to use with it, and as Bronos is saying, a weapon is a weapon is a weapon, and when I wanted to compete in Crown these last couple of years, with kind of limiting my chances, so I picked up a glaive, and I fought in our Crown with a glaive, and I've been to the 3 crowns that I've been in. I've been to the quarterfinals twice, and I've been in the semifinals once. And you know, that was the thing that Floki and I had talked about after that. It's like, yeah, maybe it's not the weapon.
You know what it is? It is your little toe that you have not sold.
Must be. Hey, Floki, you gotta tell them that mixed weapon crown final that I won. You'd gotten a comment from somebody.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, Sean wanted, so we don't do a mixed weapon final here. We pretty much, once you are in the finals, you get to use, you know, your strongest weapon form, and we stay consistent with that. And Sean knew ahead of time that there was a mixed weapon form coming up. And so he just, you know, 6 months out, he just said, okay. And he just started getting ready. He just started practicing with these other weapon forms.
Well, and I knew the greatsword was going to be a liability for me. I knew that was my shortcoming, and I knew people were going to call me out on it. So I fought that for 4 months straight.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's there was a question. Tilius asked a question the other day on the Known World Virtual Fighter Practice page. Does using a big shield or a small shield make you a better fighter? You know what makes you a better fighter is, again, my son takes Kali and Muay Thai and Gracie Jiu Jitsu, and on the wall they have dedication, discipline, determination. That's what makes a better fighter. Right. It doesn't matter. I have the belief that a good fighter can pick up any weapon form, and as they dedicate it themselves to learning that form, they can create the discipline to practice on a regular basis. They're going to do really well with that weapon form, and it doesn't matter what kind of weapons they're going to encounter. This idea that there's a weapon form or a weapon system that's going to be superior to the weapon system, that's just not the case. It's the guy wielding the weapon. You're the weapon, not the thing in your hand. It's you, the fighter, that's the weapon.
That's you go. There's the key. Exactly.
Yeah.
So what would each of you say is the one aspect about fighting in the SCA that you're the most naive about, or you misunderstood it the most?
I will tell you, my worst weapon form is spear, 9-foot spear. Once a weapon gets over 6 feet, I don't know what to do with this extra range. I'm in awe of guys who are with 9-foot spears. We've in Artemisia have been super lucky. We've had some, I would say, world-class spearmen with 9-foot spear who are just above and beyond. Duke Conrad von Krixen, do we have out here? When he got knighted, he was an okay sword and shield fighter, but you could, in a melee, and I was a sword shield guy in a melee, I would harry a line, they'd chase me. I would get about 15 feet to Duke Conrad, they would stop chasing me. Conrad didn't even have to point his spear at guys. If I got within 20 or 15 feet of Duke Conrad, I'd stop being chased. That's how good he was with a spear. They knew that he was that good. We've had a lot of guys who were that good, and I'm in awe of those guys. And I just, and I kind of understand the concepts behind it, but man, I just don't have, whether it's the temperament, the patience, it's just not a weapon form I've been able to apply myself to. And I just went, yeah, it's all right. I don't have to be good at that. These guys be good at that. So that's mine is spear. I'm super naive about how that thing works. I have no idea how that works. We do a tournament here in Artemisia, we do King's Champion, which is a multi-weapon tournament. It's actually 5 small tournaments combined into one. It's just like the Atenvelt King's Champion tournament. And when I used to fight in that, we'd get to the spear round, and I was like, this is my throwaway round. I'm going to die in the first round. That's okay. I'm going to die here. I'll go get some water. We'll come back out for the next round, for the next tournament. But those guys have always impressed me. They're just amazing guys. Guys who are good with spears really impress me a lot. That's my answer.
All right, Duke Branos.
Yeah. Well, that was a good one. There's, I guess there's a lot of things I was naive at the beginning. I would say when I got knighted, I was a little naive about how to take squires and how to treat squires. Not that it was bad or anything else. I had a couple of really great squires, but I definitely treat them differently now, and I don't have a lot. So, but and then I think the funny one is I was very naive, and still to this day, I think a lot of us are naive about the evolution of fighting in the society. You know, we're lucky. I mean, we get to be around, you know, you guys are at the same practice and you're like, man, this is the way everybody is around the world. This is awesome. Everybody's great. This is, you know, and then you get, and it's just been lately, you get people that's like, hey, I'm throwing this, you know, tire iron at a pell I built in my backyard. Am I doing it right? And you're like, oh, damn, I remember those days. I didn't think they existed anymore, but they're still out there. It's just amazing. And I think, I think, you know, this, a lot of things that you're doing, Vesper, and what everybody here is willing to do and happy to do is teach, but there are a lot of people that don't get the chance to be in front of even a knight or somebody after practice that's better than them in some cases, you know, someone that can show them the ropes. And I think a lot of times I just sit around and think that's just the way it is, but it absolutely isn't.
Next answer.
So it kind of stems into that as well. I think the whole naivety of learning how to train and training better is something that I didn't have early growing up. Like when Duke Sean came, it was some of the best training I ever had. Not saying we didn't have a lot of good fighters in our area, but I was pretty much the only knight. And our practices were maybe 2 or 3 people, maybe 4. And then if I wanted to travel to Chicago, so that's 2.5 hours away from me one way, that's where I'd start to fight a little bit better fighters and have more of a organized training system. So the whole finding out how to learn, how to teach, and now I'm trying to give back. So like when I was doing with Attilas, that was the first really thing that I've ever taught fighting wise. And it's been slowly like, okay, I've had all these great teachers teach me this, but now how do I help them do it? And it's just amazing when I see these guys, all 3 of these guys teach, and yourself, Vesper, it's just really cool because you just learn more and more, and it may not work for somebody else, but then you can send them your way. So, yeah.
And Duke Sean.
So, of course, understanding that, you know, I found the SEA when I was 12 years old. So there was a lot of naivete in my youth. I think one thing that served me well, honestly, was the being somewhat naive about how good some of the people that I was fighting actually were. You know, when I was following on Brian when he was king, and everybody, you know, the people wanting to fight the king are usually the best fighters in the world. And, you know, Brian throws me at them and says, go fight that guy. And I just did. I never questioned it. And I never, you know, Brian said, fight the guy. So I fight the guy. And there was never the, you know, oh, well, who is this guy? And how many times has he been king? And I think that naivety definitely helped a lot. But I would say more recently, something that I'm not necessarily naive about, but I think it is a shortcoming in how I train. Like we all have our specialties, we all have the things we kind of focus on a little bit. But I think I tend to focus more on the sports psychology side of training our sport, and I tend to gloss over the physical fitness of our sport. It's something that I think is important, but it's not something, I mean, my body has just trained itself to do this over the last 30 years. And because I'm still doing it, that you know, the muscles are conditioned to do certain things, right? But for people that come to this as an adult that, you know, may have had weight problems or whatever, and that's just, it's not my specialty. And it's something you don't hear me talk a lot about because I don't know it. And fortunately, I've got a guy named Duke Floki, who I can send people to, and I've got Attilas, and I've got, you know, there's a number of people that can give you better information about that than I can. So that's I'd say, you know, maybe not something I'm naive about, but a shortcoming that I just hand it off to people that know more about it than I do.
Well, I have a question, you know, speaking of being naive, and I'm sure I've asked a few of you this before. Your Pell, what height do you prefer to practice with your Pell?
Oh, do I get to answer this first?
Totally get to answer it.
All right. All right. Oh, I knew the Pell question was going to come. Here it is. You ready for my answer?
I'm ready. I'm waiting with bated breath. I'm ready.
I haven't used a Pell in 15 years.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
don't use a
God,
Pell
blasphemy.
anymore. I know. Do you know, I don't use a Pell because Pells don't move and they don't hit back. Pells, though, that isn't to say that Pells are not useful. That is not true. Pells are useful. Um, First of all, so this is my opinion of Pells. I guess I have to explain why I don't use a Pell, but I have a Pell. I want to make this perfectly clear. I have a Pell. It looks like hell. It's been sitting in my backyard for 15 years, neglected, and it looks like it's been neglected. But um, Pels are great when you first get started because you do need to build up the muscle memory, this reflex. You need to condition the muscles, and the only way you can do that is through consistent repetition. You're not just good. I mean, there's all kinds of things that happen when you do a physical activity with repetition. You build muscles, tone. You dedicate glycogen, stored glucose, to those muscles to perform. The neurology of the muscle improves so that the reflex action is faster and quicker. So that's great at the beginning, but there's a point where that's established and it's just not going to get established anymore. The next thing that Pels are great for is when you are trying to coordinate a shot, when you're trying to develop a shot, how do I say, for example, the last time I used a Pel, it was very specific. I wanted to step towards my opponent's shield side and throw an offside blow to the head, offside body, offside leg. This is a real complicated, it doesn't sound that complicated. Neurologically, that's a very complicated movement to accomplish because it's using both hemispheres of the brain to throw that shot. And I could walk through it very slowly on the Pel. I could go, okay, I'm stepping this way. I'm going to throw. Okay, I'm doing this. That's what Pels are good for. I think past a certain point, what you need is something that's going to move, that's going to react, and is going to respond, is going to adapt to what you're doing. And that you can only get that with another person, another opponent. But again, my technique and my style is not conventional. It's very unconventional as far as the SCA goes. So I do not use a Pel very often. But again, that doesn't mean that they're not useful. They are. They're useful, I think, in your early stages. And even when if right now I came to a point where I came up with an idea on how I wanted to throw a certain combination or how I wanted to throw a certain blow, if I wanted to move one way and strike another, I'm happy to go back out to my Pel with my sword and my shield. And by the way, put your helmet on when you get on your Pel. You got to swing around that helmet. Guys go out with their sword and shield. They don't put their helmet on. Put your helmet on. It's going to change how you work on that Pel. And I will work out how I'm stepping and moving around that Pel very slowly to kind of work it out, and then speed it up faster and faster and faster and faster until I feel confident taking it to a fighter practice and taking it out. That's how I use a Pel. I haven't used one in a very long time, though. I've been able to kind of, and again, as Duke Sean mentioned, we've got a great practice here. I've got great guys who I'm willing to go into a fighter practice and go, I'm going to see if this works. And then I get blasted in the rib cage and I go, that didn't work as well as I thought it would. Let's try it again until I don't get blasted in the rib cage anymore. I'm willing to do that. And that's one thing that is great about a Pel too. As far as height goes, I set the eye height. So I will mark on my Pel where my eye height is and I'll match it. And I'll go to my chin height and match it. And I'll kind of go to chest height and match it. And then hip, knee, and then I'm done. So that I know exactly where I'm throwing to. But I like to break down my targets on my Pel into quadrants. You don't really have to go, this is going to hit 2 centimeters behind the left ear when I turn this into a wrap shot. You just need to know a quadrant. You divide it into quarters. So you have high lines, low lines. You have lines on your left, I call lines to the right, outside lines. That's actually what it is in the medieval manuscripts. All of your inside lines in the SCA in the manuscripts are outside lines. And then obviously all your outside lines are inside. Doesn't matter. You've got lines to the left, lines to the right. That's how I break down my Pel. And that's just how I prefer to do it. And again, realizing, of course, you're going to fight people taller. You're going to fight people smaller. You're going to have to make adjustments within that. But, those are the limitations that that a Pel will offer you. Eventually, you got to go to fighter practice and you got to get hit. You got to get smacked in the butt, smacked in the ribs, smacked in the legs. And when you do, you got to tell yourself, I didn't screw up. I'm not doing this right. Doesn't mean I did it, that the idea, the concept of what I'm trying to accomplish is wrong. It just means my execution isn't correct. And if you go to fighter practice with this mentality that you're going to win the fighter practice and you're going to beat every opponent, you're never going to be able to figure out where these things are right or wrong until you're in a tournament. That is the wrong time to learn that you've been doing something wrong. Do it at practice. Get a guy, get hit. Sometimes you just got to get hit, you know, you got to get hit. And so I don't use a pelt because it won't hit me. If I get hit, I know I screwed up. Not everybody learns that way, but I do. So
Well, if you get hit by your pal, you know something's really wrong.
if I get hit by my pal, my son's hiding behind it. That's what's happening. Yeah.
Dude Branos, what about you? We also have some questions coming from
Yeah, let's go to the questions. I think there were a couple questions on that I was looking.
Yeah. So one of the first questions we have would be, how do you differentiate between a fighting technique that you're struggling to master and a technique that is not translating to your body at all? Quick example, a 6 foot 5 inch, 250 pound man is going to be able to throw shots at a 5 foot 2 inch, 120 pound frame. I'm probably reading that in a way that doesn't make sense, so I apologize.
I think it's probably, you know, a 6'2", 250 guy is probably going to be able to throw things a little different than somebody's in a 5'2" frame at, you know, at a $125, right? So I think that's probably the question, and I think that the idea there might be, how do you know when it's just something you can't do?
Yeah. I had a squire who was 6'9", and well, he's not this heavy now. He does Ironman tournaments now, but Sir Vidar out here in Artemisia, he's 6'9". He was about, when I took him on, I want to say he was about 320. He was enormous, and he had lines of attack on your head that you never even imagined existed. So it depends. I mean, I guess in this scenario, if you're the tall guy or if you're the short guy, I'm going to go ahead and assume you're the short guy talking about fighting a taller guy. The key here is a sports psychology concept, again, is visualization. You got to be able to visualize yourself in that person's position, and visualize what they are seeing, and realize that it's not what you're seeing, and figure out how you're going to anticipate these extra lines of attack that they have that you're not seeing, that you don't have because of this height advantage. Now, a shorter fighter also has advantages, particularly over very tall opponents. So always, again, there's always a balance in fighting. There's always another avenue you can kind of take. A very tall fighter has advantages. A very short fighter has advantages. It's all about, and it's not a good, I'm not saying a good, happy thought feeling kind of thing. It is literally visualize what your opponent is doing. Focus on your opponent in the fight. What does your opponent have? What weapon system are they using? Obviously, if you've got a guy who's 6'9" and has a great sword, he got a lot of reach. Where am I in danger? How close do I have to be before he can hit me? How close do I have to be before I can hit him? And how can I negate one and make the other one more advantageous? These are things that guys have to start thinking about. I just tell guys, look, when you're fighting, when you walk off a field, off a tournament, and you lose in a tournament, the comment that comes up, what did I do wrong? What did I not do? What did I not see? What did I not do? And I'll look at guys and I'll go, what did he do? What did your opponent do? For example, in boxing, your corner man is not telling you what you need to do, what you did wrong. He's telling you what your opponent's doing. Because in the fight, you get tunnel vision and you can't really see what's happening, especially in boxing. When you're so close, you're so close, almost always every round ends in a clinch. You can't see what's happening. You go back to the corner, your corner man saying, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's doing this. Pay attention when he does this, pay attention when he does that. And I hear guys coming off the tourney field and they go back to their knight and their knight says, you did this, you did this, you did this. They don't talk about what their opponent's doing. Shift your focus to what your opponent is. Visualize what they can do to you, and you'll start being able to deal with some of these other things. Rather than, what do I need to do? Your first concern is, what can he do to me, or what can she do to me? Focus on your opponent, I think, and that will help. If I'm understanding this question right, I think that's the idea. Focus on what your opponent can do, and you're ahead of the game. If you know what your opponent can and can't do before the fight begins, based on their height and their weapon system, you're at an advantage. And hopefully I think that's what they're asking. I'm not quite sure.
All right, that was a great answer. We do have more questions, but if anybody would like to chime in before we touch on any of the other questions.
No, go ahead and
No?
bang those questions out there.
All
Yeah,
right.
go get some more questions.
All right, so we have what are your thoughts on having a structure of hierarchy to train, and who should be training who?
Do I get to answer this one first?
Well,
Go ahead.
yes, absolutely.
Hey, your show, buddy.
Yeah.
We're here for support. When these
Yeah.
guys start roasting you and you run out of answers, then we're here.
Then I know I'm good. All right. So, look, I don't know of a martial art that doesn't have a hierarchy. You need to have a hierarchy. Now, sometimes that is accurately reflected in the color of a person's belt, and sometimes it's not. You know, if you think about the white belt in the SCA and compare it to a black belt in other martial arts, you're actually on pretty similar footing, to be perfectly honest. But you need to look at people who have have a level of experience, and hopefully, if the SCA is doing everything correct, the people who are in the fighting arena, who are knighted, who have won crown tournament, have an experience that you might be lacking, and therefore they'll have some insight into how to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve, whether it's winning a tournament, getting knighted, just excelling at fighting, whatever it is, because those people have been there, they've dealt with those issues. And if the SCA does everything correctly, those individuals are able to pass on some kind of information. Sometimes it's panning for gold, you know, sometimes it's 99% crap and there's one little nugget in there. And sometimes you hit the mother lode and it's fantastic and everything's good. But you do need to have a hierarchy. You do need to understand that there are people involved who know more than you, and they need to be recognized. I mean, when people ask me what I think about my knight's regalia, I mean, I got knighted in 1995. They asked me what I think about it, and I said, you know what, this is just a uniform to tell guys I know some stuff. This says I'm here, I'm available, you can ask me questions, and maybe I have something that you will find useful. And that's really what a hierarchy is for. It just says this person's been there, they've done that, we've acknowledged they've been there and done that, and you should acknowledge that they know something. What that is, that's hard to say. But my experience in the martial arts world has been very similar, that you can find guys with black belts who will tell you things that will blow your mind. You can find guys with black belts that'll tell you stuff you knew 20 years ago. So it is important in the sense that you are able to seek those individuals out. It doesn't mean that they always have the answer. So I think it's you have to kind of temper it with that kind of understanding that these individuals might have something they could, you know what I'm saying? They might have something that you need to know, but that doesn't mean they have all the answers. But a hierarchy is important, and I do think we need to be able to acknowledge that it does serve a purpose in a martial arts kind of setting. So.
Do we have my puppies are, they're adding their comments in the background. So if you hear barking, that's them. Do we have any comments on that before we go to the next?
I'm gonna kind of throw something out there as well. Just kind of an example of how this works. As Floki was saying, it's not always, the belt is a pretty good indication, but that's not the end all be all, right? I had one of my former squires, Lachlan, who just stepped down from his second reign in the middle of this whole COVID disaster. He came to me when we had he was at a practice where he was a baronial knight marshal, and he came to me one day after practice and said to me something that Timur has said to me far too often, where he said, okay, before anybody tells you what happened, let me tell you what happened. And so Lachlan, as my squire, was at practice, and he sees these two guys out there fighting, and it is just awful, right? It's just a mess. And, and he said, well, I didn't want to do anything because I'm not knighted, but it was so bad I couldn't help myself. And so he stopped them both and said, this is basic textbook flat snap. So how about you guys just stick with that? And it was just one of those things where, there definitely comes a point where what you're seeing is so bad that you even if you don't have the white belt, you got to step in. And I've always told my guys to train within their comfort level, because that's one of the things we expect as knights. And how can we know if somebody is going to be able to be a trainer if they don't take a chance to try to do that? We expect them to prove that to us as squires. And so I always tell them to teach within their comfort level. And, and it was interesting that after he told me that, I came to practice the week after that. And those two guys that he pointed out to me, it was very clear to me that one of them went home and did the work and one of them did not. And one of those guys ended up becoming one of my squires and ended up getting knighted. And yeah, it doesn't have to be the white belt, although it helps.
I want to add too to that. My last squire that got knighted, Sir Magnus, out here in Artemisia. Magnus came to us. He played defensive line for Oklahoma State, won the Alamo Bowl. He used to call me up and go, "I'm going out clubbing tonight." And I said, "Wear your bowl ring, man." He goes, "I got it on. I got it on. I wear that bowl ring when you go clubbing." He did strongman competitions. When he came to Artemisia, I want to say, he's going to correct me on this, but I want to say he was 320 and he was benching about 500 pounds. I mean, he was huge. He was enormous. And then he did MMA in Oklahoma for 2 years. He did mixed martial arts. I think he did 2 fights in semi-professional fights. And then he got into the SCA. So I met him here in 2009. We started talking. The things that he taught me as my man-at-arms and squire, I will never forget. Absolutely invaluable, which was basic footwork. We used to warm up at practice. He'd bring focus mitts and 8-ounce MMA gloves. And he'd give me the gloves. And he's like, "We're going to warm up." And he's like, "We're just going to box, man. Forget SCA. It's just boxing. We do a little MMA." He taught me head slips. He taught me leg slips. He taught me how to move my feet and the proper way to stand. I mean, he taught me so much. I think I showed him the right way to throw a flat snap one time. And I said, and my son does mixed martial arts. My son, who's 15 now, has been in mixed martial arts since he was 5. And I said, he was having trouble with the flat snap. And I said, "Well, dude, you know how to throw a right cross?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, turn your thumb up." He goes, "Oh, that's it." I think that's all the training I ever did with him. He taught me more as a squire than I ever did to him as a knight ever. And he and I were able to, up until that, he had to quit fighting in 2016 because he had taken so many hits to the head playing football. It wasn't safe for him to continue to fight. And it was a really sad time. It was my reign, my second reign. He said, "I got to stop, man. They're telling me I might have CTE. I got to stop." It was tragic. It was a tragedy for everybody in this kingdom that he had to stop fighting.
Yeah, the real tragedy of that? I was the last person to hit him.
Yeah, but he had so many blows. Yeah, I know.
It's not me. I know it's not me.
You. No.
I know, but
it feels bad. It hurts.
And I remember that shot I hit him with. It was just everything lined up.
Just lined up right.
And it wasn't like I was trying to hit him hard. It was just everything just lined up, and it just happened to be the type of impact.
Yeah.
It's just So I got a little hurt about that.
Yeah, but he came to us. He had already, the damage was probably already there, but he is still everything. I mean, invaluable as a trainer. I will call him up and go, "Hey, what about this? What about that?" Go, "No, you're wrong. You're wrong. No, doesn't go like that. You're at all. Don't do that. Do this. He helped me.
It's his understanding of the sport, and when you have that understanding, you don't necessarily have to have the application. That's what we got from Sagan too.
Yeah,
you don't have to have the application if you have the understanding.
I'm a big believer in Jeet Kune Do, and Bruce Lee says, technique is not stringing beads on a thread. The guy who has 29 beads isn't going to lose to the guy who has 30. That's not how it works. Bruce Lee said, a technique is like I take a cup to the well and I fill that cup up and I bring it to you. I am bringing you a little bit of the bigger concept, the larger concept. And Bruce Lee said, if you understand a technique, you understand one technique. If you understand a concept, you understand all techniques. And that's exactly what Magnus kind of brought out here. He was saying, look, if you understand that this is how you're going to move and this is how I'm going to move, and this is how the distances between us have to be maintained when I go to strike you and you come to strike me, then everything that you do in that moment is going to be correct. And I'm oversimplifying, of course, but it's exactly the same thing that Bruce Lee's trying to communicate in Jeet Kune Do. And he's still an invaluable trainer. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. My crown that I won in 2016, Magnus was my training partner. And that meant that we would do these training sessions we would do 15 minutes of fighting nonstop. If you got hit, you just called it and you kept going. If I got hit in the leg, I called it, but I didn't go to my knees. Got hit in the head, you called it, just kept going. There was no resetting. It was designed so that as our endurance fails, our technique stays level. Because you do not want technique to go with endurance. This is bad. You've got to find a way to get technique to stay level as your endurance goes, because your endurance is going to go. And the only way to do that is to push hard and deep into that zone.
Really should.
We had Sir Joel DeChance out here who had a stopwatch. And Matt said, give us 15 minutes. This was the last practice before Crown, and I fought Duke Sean in this Crown tournament. So I'm blaming Magnus for that win, by the way, Sean. Joel hits the time.
I'm sure he helped, but 25 years of us fighting probably helped too.
Yeah. So here we go. I'm fighting him. I was about to vomit, and I had 30 seconds left on the time. And I said, I got to stop. And Magnus said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. And I said, yeah, I got to stop. I got my helmet off, and he came over to hit me.
Yeah.
I had my helmet off. He's like, I'm going to fucking hit you. Sorry. Because I'm going to hit you. But that's what he said. That's what he said. He goes, I'm going to hit you. And I put my helmet back on. We went back out. And he said, and the last 30 seconds of our fight, he goes, hit me. I hit him. He goes, no, hit me. I hit him. He goes, no, hit me. And I hit him. He goes, no, that's not a hit. Hit me. And I'm hitting him, and I'm hitting him. He goes, no, keep going. No. And I finally, he goes, all right, I'll take that. We went, I think we were like 17 and a half minutes. I collapsed on the ground, and Magnus walked over to me, and he goes, you're not going to have a fight that hard in Crown. You won't have one hard. He wasn't kidding. I went to that Crown tournament, and up until I faced Sean in the final, I didn't have a fight that even came close to what I had in training. And so my point is, don't look at a guy with a red belt and say he's got to teach you, because you just don't know. Magnus was able to bring over his experience from years of collegiate football, MMA training, and bring it to us in the SCA, and that was a super gift. And so you just never know. There is an importance to the hierarchy, but you can't ever just assume that a guy standing in the corner with a red belt doesn't know anything. You just never know. And I think that's the great thing about our game, is that individuals can come out and can bring their experience out and bring it into play. And sometimes it's super valuable like that.
That kind of leads into a question that came in regarding, a local fighter practice, and let's say that nobody there is a knight, or nobody is a upper level fighter. So how do you develop a culture of training in that particular situation?
Well, so that's something that happens here every once. I think every kingdom experiences that, every local group experiences that, where you have these kind of down moments where the great fighters aren't coming out for whatever reason, and you'll go to practice and you're better than everybody there. And how do you progress as a fighter? This is a great opportunity for you to work on things that you're weak on. And again, I want to hit back on this idea that guys go to practice, they want to win the practice. This is totally contrary to what practice is about. Practice is about doing things that you're pushing your envelope, doing things you're not comfortable with, trying out new things. And again, hey, you've got a whole field of pels that'll hit you back. If you mess up, they'll smack you and you'll know you did it wrong. You have to actually correct in real time. So you can create a feeling of training, first of all, in yourself. If you come out with that training mentality, You come out and you say, these are concepts I'm bad about. These are things I'm weak on. For example, a long time ago, Duke Timmer and I were at a practice, and I looked at Timmer and I said, my head wraps are weak. If I hit you with anything other than a head wrap, don't take it. And he said, okay, I can't remember what he said at the time, but this and this is weak. If I hit you with something that's not this. And we just went and fought. And if I flat snapped him, of course, his instinct, his training kicked in. He wanted to say it was good. I said, no, that wasn't a wrap. You can change in practice the parameters of the practice so that you are actually focusing on things that you are not good at, or that your opponent may not be good at. You guys can kind of come together and say, I need to work on these things. If you go to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and you're going to roll with somebody, if you're not just going to do 15 minutes just loose rolling and just practicing getting holds and letting go, the first 20 minutes, anytime anybody's just going to get on the mat and roll, they're going to work on things that they aren't good at. They're not going to get down there and practice the techniques and the holds that they know. They're going to get down and practice the techniques and holds they don't know. So if you go to a practice and you want to create a training environment, somehow you're going to have to change the parameter of the practice so that you're at a disadvantage and you're forced to work on the things that you're not good at. And that's what that's when practice matters and it really makes a difference in your life. If you go to practice and you can hit this flat snap when this guy walks into the box, don't throw that. Don't even throw it. Or tell the guy, hey, if I throw this because my training just kicks in, ignore it. I'm not working on that tonight. You got to change those parameters, restructure the practice that makes everybody focus on the things that they need to work on. You can even get everybody around and go, if you've got a small practice and you got 5-10 guys, you can say, what is everybody here? What's the thing you are worst at? What's the shot you feel like you're the worst at? Have them all say it and say, okay, you just throw that shot, you just throw that shot, you just throw that shot. Change the parameters of the practice. That's how you'll create an environment for training. And you'll notice that way you can improve, even if you're not going to a practice and you've got 2 or 3 guys who can just beat the crap out of you, because that is also a good way to improve. But we don't always have that ability to do that. So
That's a great
I think
answer.
I'm gonna throw out something from the other side of that, which I think might be kind of wrapped up in that question too. Is when you have a small practice and you don't have the experienced fighters around you, and you're just kind of making things up as you go along, and how do you make better practice, and how do you get better when you don't really have a lot of good fighters and access to your area. And that's one of the things that I've been trying to do over the years, and that's one of the things that I'll go ahead and plug it so Brownos doesn't feel too uncomfortable. The Coach's Corner, SCA Coach's Corner, that's one of the things that we're trying to do there, is try to give some people some instruction on how to make practice happen, and how to get what you need when you don't have the experience. And one of the things about that is you don't know what you don't know. And if you're in a small area and there's only a handful of people, or even if you have a bunch of people, but you don't have the experience to draw on, and you don't know what it means to be doing it right? Fighting correctly. Well, what does that mean? As knights, our job is to teach people. And most of the knights in your kingdom, if you say we've got a small group, or we've got a group that doesn't have a whole lot of talent, doesn't have a lot of instruction, you ask any of the knights in your kingdom to come to your group and teach your group. I know I've always felt that if somebody values enough what I have to say that they're willing to cover my basic expenses for me to get somewhere, I think I have an obligation as a knight to accommodate that. That's my job, is to teach people. And this is not a money making operation for me, but I'm not independently wealthy either. If I were, I would travel all over the country teaching people how to do this just for its own sake, just because I love teaching people what we do. But if you could throw me a little gas money to come out to your group, I will spend all weekend with you.
So wait a minute. If I throw you gas money from Utah to East Coast,
That gas will go in a plane.
Plane. And my ass will get on that plane. And yeah, I mean, if you value enough what I have to say, and that's the thing, you know, if you're in a smaller group, any of the knights in your kingdom, any of us are willing to go to your group and teach you what we know, and it is our job to do that.
For us. So, yeah.
there is a question regarding, I guess your willing obligations to people, and I'm kind of curious about this as well. How many squires do each of you have, and how do you teach, train, or mentor them, etc.?
I am at. That's a good hard question for me. I'm at like 1.5. I share a squire. I think I share Varia with Duke Conrad. One of my squires moved out of my area, and she'll I don't know, Duke Conrad, and I'll go, that's your squire. No, that's your squire. No, that's your squire. That's your squire. We go back and forth on that. And then my last,
whether or not she's screwing up, right?
Right.
yeah, exactly. Or whether she's made beer for us. That's the other thing. No, that's my squire. No, that's my squire. No, that's my squire. My other squire right now is Sean's gonna laugh. Is Christoph, who is the SCA's worst squire. The forever squire, the worst squire. All my other squires have been knighted. So this is my thing. So my background is in personal training. I trained athletes. I did that off and on for about 10 years. My philosophy of my squires is that I'm going to let you fall flat on your face. I'm going to let you trip over the stones in the road, but I'll pick you up and dust you off and go, hey, don't do that again. My squires, that's their journey. It's not mine. And one of the things we learned as a trainer is that I need to look at a fighter and figure out how they are going to fight and teach them the way they're going to do it, not teach them the way I'm going to do it and then make it a sink or swim thing. I have to be able to look at them. And I mean literally this. I don't mean this is not some kind of weird thing. How tall are they? How broad are they? Do they move how do they move? What's their physicality? Being able to watch somebody move in a fight and say, excuse me, be able to say, this is what you need to do here, and this is what you need to do here. So each of my squires has been very, very different. They've all kind of progressed in their own way. So as far as fighting goes, I've been very lucky. I've been able to look at them as individuals and say, this is what they need to do, and this is what they need to do. And they're all completely different. Sean will tell you, Sir Vidar, my first squire who got knighted, he's 6'9". My second squire is who got knighted is about my height and fought almost exactly like me. My next squire that got knighted is Sir Magnus, Sir Thomas de Beaumont, so forth and so on. They were all very different. And I had to train them the way they were going to fight. I had to look at how they were moving, the things that they had that worked for them and things that they didn't, and train them the way they are going to do it, not the way I do it. The only one of all the squires I've had knighted that fought anything close to me is my second squire who got knighted, Sir Bowen. And that's back when we were both using kite shields. And I waited. Maybe people say, oh, we need to knight Bowen. We need to knight Bowen. I waited. I held off on him until he did something that was different from me, until I saw kind of a hallmark kind of movement. And I remember one day I came up to him and I said, that thing you're doing, I don't do that. And he goes, oh, I'll stop. I said, no. You keep doing that thing. That thing is you, man. That's you. And that's leading to you, to your path of success. And we kind of reinforced that. And after that, we kind of parted company as far as technique. So that's what I look at in my squires. That's kind of how I train my squires. I try to look at them. They're individual people. This is their path. I'm just a guide along the road. I am going to go turn a light on over my head because I'm light, but I'll be right back. So let the other guys answer while I get some more light.
Duke Branos, how about you?
I probably fall far away from that idea. I come in with a training method. I come in with a style. I don't expect there. I got people that throw. Sir Jason throws an offside. That's amazing. I have lots of people at my practice. But one thing that does happen is almost everybody at my practice goes somewhere like, hey, I know you're from Detroit. Because they know, as soon as they line up on them, they absolutely know where they got training. That's not to say that they don't go do their own thing, and that that's here or there. They have to find the things that do well. Rongvalder is not nearly as fast as I am, but he obviously he's a great fighter, and he built his piece on timing and setup. People think there's another discussion we're probably having later. If people think he's super fast, and I laugh because he comes over and is like, you got the best one. Somebody called me fast, and we laugh, and, but he's the type of guy. He's like, you're like, I'm gonna throw this, and then he hits you, and you're like, well, wait, I didn't see that. Well, that's because he already started throwing an hour ago, and as you were in your technique, he hit you. So his timing is just incredible. But when it gets down to fundamentals, the breaking into footwork and breaking, I do a lot of really hard footwork stuff. I do a lot, just in the last 7 years, a lot of Eastern European boxing footwork, constant tension. I look for people to breathe halfway out and make them suck bad air back in. This kind of tension work is not something that has been done much in the SCA, hardly ever. And but it's there. You can break people down mentally and physically just with tension alone. And then you add feet and the hard things like that. And I bring those in, and Rongvalder do some things much better than I do. I got other knights at our practice, other unbelts at our practice that do things a lot better than I do. On that level, we have a base, and we lay that base down really strong. So and then they build on that. After they're in that base, they build on the things that are good for them and the things that work for them going forward. As far as here's the big piece, and I think a lot of people, this is something that I changed. It's funny, probably because, and Seto will get this one, Sir Vitus. He's a little angry man. He's a wonderful guy. Incredible. Yeah, Sean knows him too. There you are.
yeah, I know him.
So my first set of squires were all my friends, and we had a great time. We had no guidelines, but in the end, it didn't. Not everything went in the path that it could have, and I think that was my shortcoming. My squires now, I tell them exactly what their job is, because our problem is we try to set up a friendship where we give and we give and we give and we give, and that's not really a friendship. That's a one-way relationship. You have to have a scenario, in my mind, you have to have a scenario where your squire can give back to you. Your squire wants to give back more to you because of what you give to him. And if you don't give him that opportunity, you're shorting him that. You're shorting him the ability to learn to serve, right? Like a knight serves the crown. So, for me, I send squires on quests all the time, not only my own, but others. Some of these quests I send people on are literally quests I'm like, you're probably going to be knighted before you're done. Because that's what they need. They need that deep thing that drives them. And my squire Hervard, I have no clue how he did it, but he'd be out there fighting with me constantly. He's now Sir, but he'd be out there fighting with me constantly. And I swear I am done on him. I get a lot of lineups like Sean, and I'm sure everybody else, when you go to about Penzic pickup field, and I'm lucky because a lot of people come out and kings come out and want to test. And every time I'm out there and I'm fighting, and you can see him doing pickups with all the other knights and kings that were waiting or whatever. And I would stop and he would take my helmet and hand me a water. And I'm like, he was just fighting a minute ago. I saw him, out of the corner of my eye. But now he's taking my helmet. And that was for him, that was his job and his duty. And I saw almost every other squire in this group. He'd pack my bag. He'd do everything that space was supposed to be for. And he would treat me that way. And everybody else saw that. And they were like, here, this is what a squire does. And that's what they wanted to do. I mean, they started doing it. I had people that weren't squires that started doing it for the knights that didn't have squires. And it's really giving them the ability to serve you as you serve them is a gift. And a lot of times, what I find is a lot of knights take that opportunity away from their squire. So, you know, to me, I'm lucky. I haven't had any squires that weren't friends of mine as well. But it really doesn't matter. I've had some that have been squires earlier before they were really a friend. I mean, we entered in a relationship because he had a thing they wanted to do. In the end, you appreciate people for the gifts they have and the things they give to everybody, not only yourself. But, you know, I think that the piece there for me is I don't necessarily, you don't have to be my friend to be my squire. You don't have to be, for sure, don't have to be my friend for me to teach you. I've taught a lot of people I have not a ton of respect for sometimes. But you know, you do have to respect the same way we respect the crown. You do have to respect the people that give to you. And that's my relationship in that now. And I think with lots of my last squires, that's worked out really well. I got 2 left now, so.
Well, we are going to go to your excellency. That is a tongue twister. Your excellency Seto, and then Duke Sean to answer that as well. We do have another question after that, and I think we might just wrap up with a fun question and finale because it's getting a little late. We have our guest of honor sitting in the dark.
I can see you guys just fine. I don't know how well you can see me, but I'm here, so.
You're fine.
I got your beard. I can see that.
That's good. That's all you need, man. If you got the beard, we're here.
Well, I'll keep mine short. Mine, I'm mainly a facilitator. I have 3 squires and 2 men-at-arms right now. And I try to help them find out what they want out of a squire-knight relationship. And after that, we get into our relationship. But just like Duke Brown said, I'll train anybody. I'll teach anybody. You don't have to become my squire dependent for me to teach you. However, I also know what I know. And then I try to get them to figure out what they know. And then maybe send them to one of these 3 guys or someone else and try to see what they thought about that. And I come from a personal training background as well as boxing, martial arts for around 20 years or so. So I most of the time watch their fights and I tell them what the other person was doing. And then they'll sometimes, it depends on everybody's level, they don't know what they were doing. Like, well, I was doing this. I'm like, that's not what you did. You went and you did this thing. So I try to tell them and be that kind of mirror for them. But it's always what you want to get. So I facilitate.
Duke Sean.
So I can, let's see, so currently, let's see, I've had 7 of my former squires who have been knighted. I currently have 2 active squires and 1 very much inactive squire. And my training methodology has definitely evolved over the years. I was, you know, having been raised by Brian Tarragon, a lot of my training methodology, like his with me, is very direct, and I think it still is to some point. It's I don't mince words really, because if there's a problem, then we need to fix it, and you know. But I think I hate to say it, but I think I've softened with age. If you ask Timur and Tirlock, who were the first of my squires to get knighted, they would definitely tell you that I've softened with age.
He's softened with age.
Well, he was voted the other night as most likely to cry if Mufasa died.
Yeah, he was.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. Sean's been there while I've knighted, guys. He's a crier. I'm gonna go ahead and knock that out.
I'm not afraid. I'm not too big a man.
There's nothing wrong with that, buddy. Nothing wrong with that at all.
We're not judging.
I tell you, along the same lines that Floki and Bronos talked about, you know, Floki had Bowen who, you know, one day just kind of became his own guy. And I remember the day that Duke Michael O'Brien surpassed me. Michael came to us with a very complete martial arts background to begin with, and this is something I've talked to Bronos about, where Michael was, you know, had the sense to just put all of that on a shelf and let me teach him from the ground up. And he let me teach him FCA combat. And I think I taught Michael well enough to be knightly in our sport. And then I remember the day it happened. It was at a harvest war in September. It was about a month before he won crown, his first crown. And that's when Michael started assimilating his martial arts background. And that's when he went from being knightly to being just a monster. And actually, Branos, you were there when we were at KWRS.
Yep.
I talked to you because Michael won crown tourney while we were in Kansas City.
Totally.
And and I was like, hey, this thing just happened. And what, like, how do you deal with, the first time one of your guys wins crown?
Yeah.
And I remember having that conversation with you.
Yeah, that was a great conversation.
Yeah, and that was that was the first time that one of my guys had clearly surpassed me. But as Floki said, there's always a point in their evolution where they just take ownership of it, where their fighting is just theirs. I'll give you one example of that. When Lachlan went out to Sacramento and he won Sanagua's Coronet list, he faced Sir Mari in the finals. Mari was knighted at that time, and Lachlan was still a squire, and Lachlan won Coronet list. And the difference to me in looking at those two fighters, and there's the one that won the list, and then there's the one who's a knight. And for the record, Mari won Coronet list 2-3 years after that too. So she's a fully accomplished fighter as well. But at the time that Lachlan won Coronet list, he was doing it. He won basically imitating what I was doing, and he did that well. But the difference between those two finalists was that Mari was her own fighter. Her fight is hers, and she owns it. And Lachlan, even though his execution was good, he didn't have that ownership at that point. And that's one of those big things that, like Floki said, you're doing this thing that is, you didn't get that from me, so keep doing that thing because that's yours. You created that, you made that, and that's what makes you a knight.
Very nice. All right, so one final serious question and then one final fun question, and we will call it a night. How much importance do you put into developing the other knightly qualities in your squires and students, like folks' titles, when to use them, service, etc., along with developing their prowess?
So, here's the thing. I'm going to go back to my son's martial arts studio, the 3Ds: dedication, determination, and discipline. When you're teaching guys to be dedicated and determined in their martial art, there's a corresponding sort of sense of respect and humility that comes along with that, because you're going to go to practices. I'm going to put you in front of somebody I know is going to kick the crap out of you. You're going to go home sitting on an ice pack, and you're going to think, I'm not as good as I quite think I am. And that kind of humility carries over into everything else that goes on in the SCA. And I will tell guys, hey, look, my first night was Raphael the Rogue. Second night was Duke Thorfinn the Just, who was squire to Duke Bryan. And I spent a lot of time working with Duke Bryan. And we were always taught as squires to respect the game, respect the way that we play, respect the history of the society. And that goes hand in hand with humility. Just, I tell guys, I'm going to be good with my language now. Don't be a D. That's what I tell my squires. Use the titles, be respectful, follow the courtesy. Viscount Raphael the Rogue, if you've ever met him in Ontier, he is the courtesan of courtesans. He knew every little detail. He's the one that taught me that when you're first introduced to a woman and she presents her hand to be kissed, you don't kiss her hand the first time. You kiss it maybe the third time. That's a symbol of familiarity. This is how intense he was on courtly virtues. These are part of teaching a warrior humility, teaching a warrior respect. And those things seem to be sort of like, let's, I mean, people think, well, we're going to hamstring the warrior. We don't want him out of control. I've heard that before. We don't want a warrior or a knight in the kingdom who no one can control. And it's not really about that. Humility and knowing what your limits are and showing respect and showing courtesy are part of what I like to call kind of a warrior mindset. Acknowledges that there are things that you can't conquer. There are things you can't defeat. There are things in your lifetime you will be defeated eventually. And so when you go into other settings off the battlefield, you need to show deference because it shows that you understand that this is part of the entire package of the warrior, to be humble, to be courteous, to show deference to the crown, because that's if for no other reason, that's the game that we play. That's the way we play. If you're in the SCA, that's the game. Play the game, show respect to the game. Even if the individual that you're showing deference to is an individual that you particularly like, or let's say, and this happens particularly when you get to the level that we're all at, the guy who's sitting on the throne is a guy who's there because, let's be honest, you did enter crown that weekend. Does that matter? Of course not. He's the guy on the throne. That's the deference he deserves and he's entitled to. And so you just show that kind of respect, and you can bring it into the idea that this is a greater part of this warrior mindset. It's something to me that kind of is missing in the modern warrior mindset. For example, in the military, your big operators, they don't tend to be colonels and generals until the end of their career. In fact, some of them tend to be enlisted. And the reason is because they need to have a superior who can come in and say, knock it off, stop it. And they need to be able to show deference to the authority. Excuse me. That's part of being a warrior. That's part of that mindset. And I tell my guys that. I'm like, show respect to the game. You don't have to show respect to the individual, but show respect to the game that you're playing that's allowed you to excel. You've benefited from this system that we have. And so show your appreciation by showing your respect and show humility. Excuse me. And when I do that with a lot of the guys that I train, they don't really have a problem accepting that. They begin to realize that sacrificing in service, that's part of being a warrior. If you think of the term samurai, for example, in feudal Japan, it actually means servant. They are servants of a superior. They are servants of somebody that they are choosing to acknowledge as a superior. Not that that person has some sort of biological superiority. They are choosing to have a superior. And I know from my personal experience, even as somebody who's reigned many times, I would rather serve a great king than be a great king. Hands down. I've had the opportunity to be a servant of some fantastic kings who are inspirational. And if you had to give me a choice and say, you can never be king again, but you will serve the greatest kings that the SCA has ever seen, I would pick the latter every time. Every time. There is something so rewarding and fulfilling about that in that warrior mindset. And I think if you went back 500 years, 1,000 years, even 2,000 years, and you asked soldiers in the field of battle, would you rather be a great captain or serve a great captain? They will always say serve a great captain. There's service and being a warrior. They are hand in hand. That is the nature of a true warrior. And so when you have a great person, you can serve the community, whether it's a king or a newbie who's never played SCA in their life, and you just help them get stuff out of their car. As a warrior, true warrior, that is a rewarding experience that you want to have, and you have to humble yourself to do it. And so I've always tried to communicate to my guys, and I've been very lucky that most of the people I've trained have picked it up with no problem. So that's my take on that.
Right, do we have some other comments?
I'm going to say that. I'm going to sit here and suck all of that good words from him right in. That was excellent. And thank you for explaining that to everyone.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
That was wonderful.
My pleasure.
I think we are ready to kind of wrap up with just a fun final question for everybody. Again, we'll answer in the order in which we appeared tonight. And when we are done, we will say goodbye to everybody. Which will be sad because you guys have been a lot of fun. So it's been nice. Okay, so I have the special bag. I don't know what the question's gonna be. I promise I'm not setting you up. So we're gonna see, we're gonna see what we come up with.
Disclaimer like that, I believe it.
Oh, this is kind of cool to like end on. What do people do that drives you absolutely bonkers?
Hand
Oh, the list is long and
Yeah.
distinguished.
I already know. Off the top of my head because I'm doing it right now. Hand sewing. So I'm a Laurel. I'm a Laurel as well, and I do a lot of hand sewing. And I get to be 50 this June. So does Sean gets to be 50 in July. By the way, everybody.
Right?
I look it. He does not. I look like I surpassed 50 about 2 years ago, and Sean looks like he's got to see about 5, 6 years down the road. But we both get to be 50 this summer, and it is not easy. Hand sewing to me is I will do hand sewing for about 2 or 3 hours, and then if I don't punch something or make a fist or break a box, it's like it's a good day because it's just maddening.
Well, it's gotta
That's
be
my
hard,
answer.
like if you have man fingers, you know. Like, just-
Yeah, you've got these fighter hands that have been how many times you've broken a knuckle or broken a finger, and here you are trying to do these fine little hand sewing.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare. It just drives you up a wall. Yeah, that's
Duke,
my answer.
Duke Branos, what about you?
So this is what drives me bonkers that other people can do?
Other
Or,
people, like, what is it that other people do? It could be anything that drives you bonkers.
oh my God. Well, all the youngsters here. Of course, Ron's already laughing at me too. So,
Get off my
Um,
lawn.
but anyways, well, that's a hard call. I guess I look at so many other people and see what they do, and I'm always in awe. Like the whole hand sewing thing. You're killing me here. That's my wife all the time. I just can't. I can't do that. What drives me bonkers? Oh,
I'll give you a hint, at least for me, and maybe it works for you or not. It drives me crazy when people make mouth noises, like if they eat
Oh,
with their mouth open.
you know what drives me crazy? I got one, and my squire will love this one. It's when people say they can't.
Uh,
Mm.
Oh,
that's a good
I
one.
I'm just that's one of those. There are things people can't do, and we all know that. But it's like you gotta try first, and
Yeah,
and if the answer is I can't before you try, then it really is not you can't.
that's true.
So
Very
it's a good
true.
one.
All right, Your Excellency.
I would just like to say when people aren't courteous, it's so easy to just smile, nod, do something. You don't have to be nice, but you can be courteous. And when people go out of their way to be discourteous, it really grinds my gears.
Me too. Disrespect is a major trigger for me.
Yeah.
That's a rough one. All right, Duke Sean.
So I think for me, something that relates particularly to our sport is, I get a lot of people that ask me for help, and I've been very fortunate that a lot of people that I've worked with actually put the work into it and make something of it. And watching that happen is just is awe-inspiring. But something that drives me absolutely bonkers is when somebody asks me for my help. Like everybody gets a freebie. Everybody gets that one time where I'm going to help you. But if you keep coming back to me every 6 months and you keep asking me the same thing, and you haven't done anything with the information I gave you before, and I can tell. Like you can tell me whether or not you've done pel work, but I'll know. Yeah, you can tell me, whatever I told you to do, I'll know whether or not you were actually working on it. And look, if I give you something to work on and it doesn't work for you, that's fine. I'll find something that does, or I'll find somebody who can find something that does work for you. But coming back to me you keep coming back to me without actually having done the work, it gets old fast.
I
It gets
could
really,
have I
really
could have
tiring.
called that. I could have said that about you. You know why? Because the first introduction I had to you was actually on this group, and there was a post that went up, and it was maybe like the very first post ever, and you had commented about people offering help, and you're like, "Oh, that's great and everything if people offer help, but if you don't take it, then that's
You
just,
don't do something with it.
and you
Yeah.
you went on a tangent about it, and I was like, who is this person? Is this person nice or not? And and I had reached out to you about it, and that was my first introduction to you entirely.
And
Was
it,
Yeah.
And look, it's not so much that you're wasting my time; you're wasting your own time. You know, if you want to do this, then put the work into it, and you'll get better. And if you don't want to do it, and you want to do something else, then go be great at that, and that's fine. You don't have to be great at this. Be great at the things that inspire you and you want to do, but you know, don't keep coming back to me asking me the same thing if you're not going to put the work into it.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time tonight. And to our guest of honor, Duke Floki, I'm not going to attempt your whole name. I know
That's
earlier
fine.
we
No problem.
we
Does,
practiced.
does everybody want to hear it once? What it
Yes,
is?
please.
Yeah.
It's actually Hvítskeggr, which just means white beard, like a.
Oh.
But it's like if you want to fake it in English from Old Norse, it's like wheat. It's like saying wheat. Did everybody see that Family Guy episode where Stewie is saying whipped cream?
Cool. Yeah.
Cool whip, cool whip.
Yeah.
This is how you say it. Yeah, it's Hvítskeggr. Yeah, you say that just like Stewie says Cool Whip. Yeah, and you're on the right track. So that's how you say that.
So we're all going to be practicing that and watching.
Yeah, exactly.
Family Guy.
Go watch Family Guy. You're going to get a lesson in Old Norse.
Exactly.
But he also partially picked that name because it's got the word kegger in it.
It does have the word. It's right there. It says
Respect that.
Kegger right in the middle of that word.
Totally have to respect that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how could you not?
Well, I tell you what, I know for one person here, I am so happy to have had the chance to get to know you.
Oh, thank you.
You have a lot of great understanding of kind of the fight and the psychology of a fighter and the culture. It was a pleasure to hear those words from you.
Well, thank you, Your Grace. I appreciate it. Now everybody drink.
Oh,
Now
man.
everybody
Oh,
drinks.
You got us on that one.
I got you, everybody. Got you.
Well, have a lovely evening. And to
Thank
all
you.
of our viewers, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to tune in on Friday. We have the Coach's Corner bringing us a very cool presentation on plateaus and how to defeat that if it occurs. So, in the meantime, have a lovely week. Thank you, everybody. And I will see you all.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Thank you.
Guys.